When I was in the 4th grade, my teacher, Mrs. Donovan, asked all the boys and girls to make a picture of themselves, and she was going to put all the pictures up on the bulletin board, and that was going to be our class. Well, I'm sorry to say, when I made the picture of me, it was not up on the bulletin board with all the other pictures, and I wondered why. And pretty soon the teacher came up to my desk, handed my picture back to me, and do you know what she said? She said, "You can do better than that." And I felt terrible inside because I really had tried my best, and I was just so embarrassed. I ran home, and I took that picture that I had drawn, and I ran into the living room, and I slipped it right under the braided rug. And I went into my room, and I closed the door, and I started to cry. My mother knocked on the door, and she said, "Sandra, what's the matter?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Nothing? Don't want to talk about it." "Okay," she said. "When you're ready to talk about it, you let me know." A little while later, my sister Dale came into the room, and she sat on the bench. She said, "Hi." I said, "Hi, I can't draw." And she said, "What do you mean?" And I ran out of the room, and she followed me, and I ran into the living room, and I picked up the corner of the braided rug, and I took the picture, and I stuffed it into her hands, and I just closed the door. And she looked at the picture, and she said, "What is this?" It was supposed to be me. Well, then my mom came in, and she sat down, and I told her the whole story. And do you know what she said? She said, "Well, let's think. If you want to learn to do something a little better, there are always ways you can learn it. Anybody that's good at something had to start somewhere. Would you like to learn to draw a little better?" "Guess so." "I have an idea," she said. Later that night, she went out to the store, and when she came home, she had a Barbie coloring book. She said, "Why don't you start by taking a look at some of the pictures in this book? Let's see if we can find a picture of a little girl in here." So we looked through that coloring book, and there were pictures of different dolls. And finally, we found a picture of a little girl doll. And my mom said, "Why don't you look at the lines very, very carefully and try to see if you can copy this picture, and maybe that will be a step in learning how to draw." So I sat there at the kitchen table, and I looked at that picture of the little girl doll, and very slowly I started to copy that picture. And you know what? It came out pretty good. And my mom said, "You know something? That little girl looks something like you, so maybe this will work. Why don't you just bring this picture in?" So the next day I brought in my picture, and do you know what the teacher said? She said, "Did you really do that yourself?" And I said, "Yes, I learned how to draw." Well, you know what happened? By the end of the school year, I had practiced and copied more and more pictures, and before you know it, I became known as the class artist. Because the more I practiced, the better I got. And at the end of the 4th grade, we were going to do a very special unit on Native Americans. And we needed some pictures to go along with it that would be up all over the classroom. And guess who was asked to draw all of those pictures? Oh, I was just so pleased that I was able to do that. You know, sometimes things that start out as your greatest discouragement can be the things that turn out to be your greatest joy. If you learn how to take steps just a little bit at a time and practice, you can become good at anything.